So the cloud platforms are the target of almost all development today. I hope I don't teach you anything today with that. I just have some numbers here to back that up. So that is a survey that the Eclipse Foundation ran earlier this year for the Jakarta IE project. And what we see is that basically 50% of the respondents are actually planning to build cloud-native architectures in the next 12 months. But when we ask them what kind of tools they use to write those cloud-native architecture, they're actually using desktop-based tools. So when you want to build a cloud-native application, what you do is you start to download 200 megabytes of plugins for your favorite IDE. Oh, that sounds a bit like mental illness to do that. And that's where I think Theia and Che, where I believe that Theia and Che will eventually bring a solution. But beyond the fact that cloud platforms are the target of almost all development, all new developments today, what is really important is that vendor neutral, as Sven mentioned earlier, are mainstream. You do not develop for a specific vendor cloud platforms. You don't develop specifically for Google Cloud. No, you basically develop now for Kubernetes, or one of the specific installation of Kubernetes, but still you are developing for Kubernetes. And that's where the vendor neutrality of the project is really a big win, that everyone creating a cloud-native application today will be able to reuse his knowledge for another project or in another company. And for you, the investment that you make into such a platform is really for the long term. And even the champion from the past, so VMware used to, is still the champion of hardware virtualization, but they are investing heavily in the vendor-neutral platforms like Kubernetes. So last year, for instance, they acquired Heptio, the startup that has been founded by two controllers of Kubernetes to really embrace this whole new way of doing open source. So welcome to this session. I'm Mikaël Barbero. I work for the Eclipse Foundation. And for those of you who don't know the Eclipse Foundation, we are the platform for open innovation and collaboration. So what does it mean? It means that we are an open source forge, and we provide services to those projects. And we want those projects to be successful. And to do that, we provide a framework of services. And those frameworks are divided into 4 different components. So the first kind of services that we provide to those projects is IP management and licensing. By doing that, we strive to acknowledge that all the source code that is being contributed to an Eclipse project is clean from an IP point of view. So whenever a dependency is added to a project, we have lawyers, we have people who actually read the code of the dependencies and check that the licenses are compatible with the current project license. But they also, for instance, do a provenance check. So they check whether the dependency didn't change the license from, I don't know, so a GPL to Apache without asking all the permissions that are required to do that, and so on. So that's really a huge part of what we provide to our project. Besides that, we also provide some governance and processes. And we're not talking about technical processes. Projects are free to make the technical decision they want. But we do that to enable open collaboration. So the processes are just there to ensure that projects are open and transparent to their community. So we have this Eclipse development process. For instance, that states how an election, or how you grant right permission to a repository to someone. this process is well defined and is based on some of the best practices of open source, meritocracy, and openness. I will explain a bit more about this process later. We also provide some community development. So we go to some events like this one, and we also organize conferences to promote and talk about technologies developed at the Eclipse Foundation. And finally, we provide an infrastructure. We provide Git hosting, Gerrit review servers. We also provide website hosting, of course, and a CI build farm based on Jenkins. So any project at the Eclipse Foundation can build their bits right on the Eclipse Foundation hardware. This framework of services is there to one goal, to provide a business-friendly ecosystem. So you can see there at the bottom, again, those services that we provide to enable this open collaboration in innovation. And on top of that, projects create their open source software, the platform where competitors work together to develop open source software. And they can do that because the ecosystem is made in a way to foster to do that. And then, of course, on top of this one, on top of that, the business model of open source of their choice is implemented. So that's where the added value is created, where organizations that may cooperate on the platform can compete and produce business value. And the Eclipse Foundation and all open source foundations enable this vendor-neutral open collaboration. And they do that, and we do that, by respecting and ensuring that the best practices of open source are applied everywhere and at every stages of projects. So those best practices are transparency, openness, and meritocracy. Transparency means that we don't just share the code. We also share the project plans. We share the mistakes, the minor and the major mistakes that project can make. We share the decision, how they are made. It means that we share the meeting minutes and the meeting planning as well. So everything is done in the public. There is no private channel for the project to communicate. They all do that in the public so that anyone can watch, learn, participate, start to collaborate, and maybe join the project eventually. And it's all about openness. So those people that will maybe start by just registering to a mailing list or reading the minutes of the meetings, maybe at some point they will want to join. And the Eclipse Foundation processes and services that we provide to those projects strive to guarantee that project will stay open, meaning that anyone that wants to join the project will get a seat. So whether you are green, yellow, orange duck, whether you work for a competitor of the main leader, the leader of the project that you want to work on, we ensure that it will stay open and the vendor neutrality is ensured. But of course, we don't open the gates to everyone and anyone, and to enable a clear collaboration, we define the process. All the processes are based on meritocracy. So you have to show and you have to participate first and show your merits to be able to get, for instance, write permission on the repository to become a committer or to become a leader, and so on. So everything is based on open vote. So for instance, again, if you want to become a committer, get write permission on a repo, existing committers need to nominate you based on real contribution that you've already made. And then there will be a vote, and you need to get at least 50% of +1 to get elected based on your real contribution. So these are the services and what we do at the Eclipse Foundation on a daily basis. You may know the Eclipse Foundation for the Eclipse IDE, I guess. That's where it all started. But nowadays, we host 350 projects, more than 350 projects. And the Eclipse IDE is only one of them. So after the Eclipse IDE, of course, there have been a lot of Eclipse plugins. But now we see projects from a wide variety of industry. So for instance, we have projects in the IoT space, from the automotive space, and we also have new cloud native Java stuff and cloud IDEs with Che and Theia. The Eclipse Foundation, maybe you don't know that, we are a not-for-profit organization based on membership, and we have 280 members now, if I recall correctly. And those members participate at different levels in the life of the foundation. Some members see the Eclipse Foundation as a strategic value, so they invest more developers and resources into the Eclipse Foundation. And some of them would like to participate in a just want to participate to the Eclipse Foundation and not see it as a strategic value. We have almost 1,600 committers now, so on all the 350 projects, so people with write permission on repositories. Of course, to provide those services, the processes, the IP, the infrastructure, and so on, we need professional staff, marketing, and also I always forgot about marketing. And we have 30 people. So 2/3 of this staff is working from Ottawa in Canada, the headquarters, and the 1/3 is remote. For instance, me, I work from France, as you can hear, I'm sure. And all in all, we have a lot of line of code from all those projects, and we have 10 working groups. And I will describe a bit more about, I will talk about a bit more about working groups later. Working groups are a way for a tech domain or some industry to focus and to redefine the governance, or to be more precise about what is the scope of a set of projects. So the strategic members, as of today, are those ones. So some are the big ones that you know, so some are smaller. There is no limitation about it's open to everyone. You can be a small company. So for instance, Obio is a very small French company. Itemis is a bit bigger company from Germany. And they all sit at the board of the foundation, besides Red Hat, Oracle, and SAP, to name a few. But of course, our members, as I said, we have 280 of them. So I think that almost all of them are listed there. I'll let you have a look if you see yours on it. So the Eclipse Foundation provides this framework for the open source project to be successful. Of course, we don't do that in the wild. We try to focus on given areas. And we all started with tools, with the Eclipse IDE. And then we shift a bit into the automotive industry and the Eclipse, the IoT industry as well. The cloud native stuff with the cloud native IDE tools with Theia and Che appears after that. And also we have some tools, developer tools for software. I don't remember the word, sorry. For engineering, with Capella and Papyrus. So it's model-based development tools. And recently, we also focused a bit more on cloud-native Java. So you may have heard about Java EE moving to the Eclipse Foundation. So Oracle basically decided that they would like to move the whole Java EE stack, meaning the specification, the reference implementation, and also the processes. So the whole JCP has actually moved from Oracle, from a single vendor control process to a full open source process under the umbrella of the Eclipse Foundation. We also have Eclipse Microprofile, which has been created actually as a reaction to Java EE not moving fast enough. And we have a couple of other Cloud Native rated projects with OpenJ9, an IBM JVM, which used to be the IBM J9 JVM that used to be that is still delivered as part of WebSphere, and Vertex. You may have heard about Vertex. It's a Java framework for doing reactive programming, and has just started before reactive programming was a thing. So we have these 4 main strategic focus areas, and among those 3 focus areas, some of the projects would like to collaborate a bit more closely. So of course, we provide the platform for open innovation and collaboration, but some companies would like to actually define some initiatives that are wider than the open source project alone. So for instance, they want to define some marketing effort. They want to define some dissemination effort and so on. So the working groups are there to define the rules of collaboration on those stuff outside of the project or wider than the project. So we still have the Eclipse development process that define the rules of engagement on the development of the project, but we have those working groups that define the rules for the business to talk to each other and how to collaborate at a wider level. And so those working groups define governance for those projects. So each working group has its own charter, its own bylaws that extends the bylaws of the foundation. So it inherits all the good property of the foundation bylaws. So for instance, we have very good antitrust policy to enable collaboration from the start and not enable collaboration by threat. We have this development process. We have the intellectual property policy to ensure that all the contribution to the project will be checked and validated. And we have the Eclipse plugin license, the Eclipse public license that ensure business-friendly open source software. So some of the working groups that have been created at the foundation are listed there. So Jakarta is actually a working group. So we have some projects at Eclipse that are the migration of those projects from Oracle. So we have Glassfish, which has migrated to Eclipse Glassfish. We have JaxRS, which is now Eclipse JaxRS, and so on. And Jakarta is the working group that defines the strategy of all those projects at a wider level, a larger level. You can think of it a bit like what the JCP used to be. It's a governance entity. So the working group in the charter defines that it is a working group that approves the specifications that will come from the project, that will manage the brand, that will establish the technical roadmap for all the projects, because of course Java EE needs some cohesion between the project. You need some collaboration, so that will be managed at the working group level. And also something new for the Eclipse Foundation is that now we do specification. So now that we do specification, we need a way to validate that implementation are compatible with those specifications. And this compatibility and this insurance that we need to, the stamp that we need to put on the implementation is also handled at the working group level. The IoT working group is one of the first working groups that has been created at the foundation. It contains, or it is composed of 35 IoT projects, and it spans really from what happens on the small devices, the clients, the thing that you wear, the thing that you drive, up to the cloud, where you have the dashboard and all the collectors of those of the data that comes from those clients. And in the middle, also, it has a lot of software to manage the gateways and the smart devices that will route the data that comes from the IoT devices. LocationTech working group is all about very high level geo application. So they define very nice RCP application or frameworks to do geospatial application. openPASS is another working group more on the automotive industry, more focused on the automotive industry. And the goal of this one is that the members who created the working group actually defined that, okay, we need a tool to simulate the autonomous driving software. So today, those companies are working on autonomous driving, and they understood that there is no way for them to create the simulator for autonomous driving all by themselves, and there is no added value to do that to do that on their own. So they decided to create this working group at the Eclipse Foundation to work on this simulator to be able to test each of their autonomous driving solutions. And the openMDM working group is another example of the automotive industry working together to define a platform where there is no business value in it. They know that they need this platform, but there is no business value on it. They will build on top of it. And this working group defines projects that lets you test or measure the data that comes from data measurements. So today, it's all about big data. You retrieve the data from everywhere, from your car, from some cars, from some AI, or you want to train AI with some taste data, and you want to assess that the data you feed the AI is good quality. So openMDM is all about developing tools and frameworks to assess the quality of the data that will be fed to AI softwares. And finally, the science working group is a working group that defines frameworks and tools and APIs that enables scientific tooling to exchangeable data formats, for scientific tooling, and also some very specific application like Open Chrome over there to do some chromatography in the open source way. So let's come back to our initial discussion. Vendor neutral cloud platforms are mainstream, and the Eclipse Foundation provides the platform to define to create open source software, vendor neutral open source software. And we believe that Che and Theia have the potential of becoming ubiquitous, and when you want to develop for the cloud, you will think about Che and Theia. A bit like, it's not a mistake, I put the Xcode icon there. When you think about developing for the iOS, you think about using Xcode. And we believe that Theia and Che can be think about the same way for cloud application. That's why there is an effort today to create a working group around this idea of cloud development tools. And you can see the link over there. There are several people in the room involved in this working group. So if you want to know more about it, the first thing to do is just to register to this mailing list, and you will see every. So it's not created yet. still under discussion, but you can already participate into the elaboration of the charters and so on this working group. And as I hope you got it, the community is the capacity. So the more people, the more diverse people we get into those working groups, the more successful it will become. Sven already talked about it earlier. You need some small contributors, small companies, small organization, and big organization to get the largest requirement list and to be able to really be successful, disseminate the technology, and get a full pipeline. You need to get students to learn the tools at university to be able to hire those people later, and they know already the tool that you use in production. So the community is really the capacity. If you want to talk about it or hear about it, we have these events in October, next October, EclipseCon Europe. In Germany, we have the call for papers, which is still open. So if you want to submit a talk about Theia or Che, you're welcome to do that. And I think I don't have much time for a question, but if you have one, I can take this. Yes?
Sorry to bring this up, but the IP checks for licenses. Sorry. The IP check, when you bring code into an Eclipse socket, checks for licenses. But now with the Jakarta EE, the problem was not the license. The problem was the trademark on the Java name. Is there any effort going on the way to actually prevent that kind of, encumberment in the future?
So the trademark issue is being dealt with before the code comes to the Eclipse Foundation. So when a project comes to the Eclipse Foundation, we have this this full review of the code and on the trademarks. So with Jakarta EE, it was enormous. So we had to do that project per project, and the Java trademark issue by itself was being dealt with separately. But usually it's being dealt with at the same time, and there is a gate. It's really a showstopper if we don't have all those stuff being done before the project is actually created.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be there the whole 2 days, so if you have any more questions.